Hey, what's up everybody? This is Justin with Sillage Scents. I have got a video today with around 13 blue fragrances. I think you're really going to like these. These are all year round, very versatile, very mass-pleasing fragrances. And I pretty much only buy fragrances that I like, so I am recommending these because every one of them are really good. Some of them are in my top 10 of all time list. So these are those that I recommend, and I'll try to comment on kind of how much I like them or why, but I'm also going to try to go through it quickly. So quite a conundrum to get through this one quickly. As we get going, let me know down in the comments, what are your top 3 blue fragrances, or even what are some fragrances that maybe people don't normally consider to be blue fragrances, but you would say, yeah, it fits the profile. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. The channel's been growing. I'm putting out 2 or 3 videos a week, and I'd love to have you join us. All right, so as we get going, blue fragrances, it's a pretty broad category. You're going to see fragrances that have similarities, although some of them smell quite different. But often in the opening, you've got some kind of a fruity opening. You've got some sort of an aromatic heart, or maybe a floral heart, or maybe both. And then in the base, you've got maybe some woods, some musk, some patchouli, that kind of thing. So a lot of fragrances fit that. But I do think to really qualify as a blue fragrance, which is such a generic term, these are things that need to be versatile. They need to be 3-season fragrances, I think, in order to really qualify. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, first up we'll mention, this is one that I wanted someone to say in a review, this is a blue fragrance, because I hadn't smelled it. I wasn't able to sample it ahead of time. And it absolutely is a blue fragrance with some uniqueness. And this is L'Homme Lacoste Intense. This is a great all year round fragrance. It's a fragrance you can totally wear in the heat of summer that has some sweetness in it. And I love that. Fragrances that work in the summer that do have some sweetness. Some of the uniqueness of this one would be, you've got rhubarb in the opening. That's a note you'll really recognize as distinct. It's also got orange in the opening. So the rhubarb and the orange are standouts, and there's some sweetness from the orange and also some vanilla in the base that make this one a little bit unique. And then it shares some common notes, grapefruit, ginger in the mid, as well as some black pepper. You've got some hedione, and then in the base you've got vanilla, amberwood, which is ambergris, and then or ambroxan, and then some cedar and some musk. So definitely fits the blue profile, but this one is a great underrated blue fragrance with some sweetness that causes it to stand out from the rest. Another one I'll mention, this one's kind of ubiquitous at this point, one of the best value blue fragrances that you can buy. If you're going to list off the 4 big ones, I think this one would probably be in the top 4. And I'm talking about, of course, Dylan Blue, Versace's Dylan Blue. And so this one's got some similarities to Bleu de Chanel. It's got some similarities to Sauvage, but it doesn't smell like either of those. But there are some qualities that you're going to notice. So in this one, you're going to get bergamot in the opening. You're going to get some watery notes, some grapefruit, a little bit of fig leaf. And then in the mid, you're going to have ambroxan, black pepper, patchouli, and violet leaf. These are, again, some common notes that you're going to see in a lot of these. And then in the base, you've got musk, tonka, saffron. And so this one is good because it does have a similar opening to Bleu de Chanel. It's got a little bit of a smoky mysteriousness that's going to remind you a little bit of Bleu de Chanel, but it does have its own characteristics, and there's a certain kind of sweetness as well with Dylan Blue that I think makes it a great pickup. And you can always get the 100 ml for under 50 bucks, at least usually at discounters. So it's a great pickup. Here's another one that will remind you of Bleu de Chanel, and it's got some similarities, although it's quite different than Dylan Blue, and I'm talking about MISSONI Parfum. And this is a parfum, or at least a lait parfum. It's a pretty strong fragrance. And what you're going to get with this one is grapefruit again in the opening, lemon, lavender, and the grapefruit and the lavender are very noticeable in this one. Then in the mid, you've got ginger, so that grapefruit ginger is going to remind you of Bleu de Chanel. And then you've got some apple and jasmine. And then in the base, you've got birch, which gives it a little bit of smokiness, again, tying it back to Bleu de Chanel. You've got sandalwood, musk, and patchouli. And so again, this is just a great all year round, similar to Bleu de Chanel. Some even call it a clone, although it's probably more like 75% like Bleu de Chanel. It's a great fragrance, although I'm not a tremendous fan of Bleu de Chanel. I do like the Parfum and the EDP a little better than the EDT. So this isn't one of my favorites, but it's still really good and one that I've enjoyed wearing a few times. Next up, this is one of my favorite blue fragrances, and it's one of the cheapest. It's on the top of my to buy list to buy a bigger bottle because I've run through half of this one in less than a year. This is Coach for Men, and I love this fragrance. This is probably top 3, definitely top 4 blue fragrances for me. And what you're going to get with Coach for Men is pear, bergamot, and lavender in the opening. Nothing too out of the usual, although that pear is kind of unique. You've got, again, you've got in the mid cardamom, geranium, coriander. And so a little bit of that aromatic quality does do something special with this one. And then in the base, you've got ambergris, suede, and vetiver. And I think the suede is one of the notes that really catches my attention. Of course, it's ambroxan rather than ambergris. I love the ambroxan in this fragrance. It's one of the main notes. It's very different from Sauvage, but it's an ambroxan powerhouse like Sauvage. This one is just beautiful. And I've seen so many people when I've mentioned this in videos who have said, yes, Coach for Men is one of the best blue fragrances, underrated, super cheap. You can get a 100 ml tester for about 40 bucks. Highly, highly recommend it. Let's see, the next one we'll go with, this is Rochas, one of Rochas's fragrances, and this is L'Homme. So this is their kind of, blue fragrance, but it does have some unique characteristics. It's got a sweetness and a strong minty aromatic heart that make this one really stand out. This one is becoming one of my favorite blue fragrances, heading up there in the top 5 for sure. And so with this one, you're going to get, let's see if I can find it on my list here. You've got blood orange, pineapple, cardamom. I'm not giving you all the notes, but some. So blood orange and pineapple, those are some sweeter notes that you're going to get in the opening of this one. And cardamom as well, which I love in everything. In the mid, you've got juniper, geranium. And so those juniper berries and geranium give it a minty aromatic quality that really causes this one to stand out. I love a minty fragrance if it's used right, and in this one it's done really well. Reminds me a little bit of YSL Y EDP, although it's not, doesn't smell like it, but it's a similar kind of profile. And then finally in the base you've got tonka, patchouli, and moss. And tonka is a great base note mixing with patchouli, or I meant to say patchouli is a great base note mixing with that moss and that patchouli. It's just a great fragrance. If you're familiar with some of these notes, which you are if you're into blue fragrances, the description of the notes will tell you all you need to know about this one. And again, it's a cheap pickup. I think I got this one for around $38 or something like that, probably Fragrance Net or Fragrance Buy. It's a great pickup. Next one I'm going to mention, this one, sometimes people will include light blue fragrances in lists of blue fragrances, and what they mean by that is, something maybe it's more aquatic than most blue fragrances, or maybe it's something similar to Dolce & Gabbana light blue. I'm not including any of the light blue fragrances in this list, although I do really like a couple of those and have some of the light blue line, but this one I think is a little closer to a blue fragrance than even Dolce & Gabbana light blue, and that would be Missoni Wave. This one has been said that it's like Versace Signature, Versace Pour Homme, and Chanel Allure Homme Sport. I think it's closer to the Chanel than it is to the Versace, and I love that because I love that creamy, little more sweet version, which the Chanel was the originator of this fragrance DNA. And this one's pretty close to the Chanel. So some of the actual notes that you're going to get. You've got C notes, citruses, mandarin in the opening. In the mid, you've got lavender, you've got clary sage, rosemary, vanilla orchid. So you've got the real aquatic features, and then you've got a significant aromatic heart. And then in the base, you've got vetiver, patchouli, and oak moss. So again, and that oak moss is pretty noticeable. And oak moss with patchouli gives a certain texture, a certain three-dimensional quality. And this is a good one, especially if you like the Chanel or the Versace I mentioned. This is a great pickup. Again, really affordable. I think sub $40 usually for the 100 ml. I think I got that one as a tester, but I'm not positive. No, I think actually the tester doesn't come with a cap, so I bought the full presentation. All right, next up, I'm just going in the order I have them laid out here, not necessarily in order of preference. This is one that is a clone of a very expensive fragrance that I do think is a blue fragrance, although it's a super aromatic, a little more sweet blue fragrance, but I still think it's totally appropriate to wear all year round. This is a clone of Sauvage Elixir, which I absolutely love, and this is a beast mode performing, super, super accurate Sauvage Elixir clone. This is Alexandria's Et Sauvage Elixir. And this one does it right. It's got that licorice note that really stands out in Sauvage Elixir. It's got, Sauvage Elixir is a very spicy fragrance. You've got cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom. So those are all kind of sweet, spicy notes that you're going to get in the opening. You've got grapefruit, lavender. You've got licorice, sandalwood, patchouli, vetiver. So you've got a lot of darkness, a lot of spice. You've got that licorice note, which is a standout, very aromatic, spicy, somewhat sweet fragrance. I think it works all year round. I wore it last summer, but I'm going 3 sprays, maybe even 2, because this thing is as much of a nuclear performer as the original, if not more so. And then, of course, in the winter, hit yourself with 4 or 5 sprays, and you're going to smell amazing for 12 hours. This is a fantastic clone. I'm very familiar with the real Sauvage. I just couldn't make myself drop the money for the real thing whenever I picked that up for 30 bucks. All right, next, let's go to this one. This is another clone. This is a clone of about a $350 fragrance. It's a clone of Roja Elysium, a niche, quite creative blue fragrance. And this is about a $22 clone. This is Fragrance World's Imperium. I've been very impressed by Fragrance World. This is one of those Middle Eastern clone houses that's doing it very well, very cheap. I don't know how they can do it, but the presentation, they aped Elysium all the way, and it smells so similar. I did a video last week comparing several of the main clones of Elysium, and I think this one's probably closest to Elysium out of the ones that I have, and it's definitely cheapest. So you're going to get in this one. I'm going to try to run through this quickly, but I want to, for those of you who are unfamiliar with these, at least give you an idea of what's in them. And so this one, you've got grapefruit, lime, thyme, and artemisia. And the lime and the thyme and the artemisia are going to be some standout notes in this one. It's got an amazing opening. In the mid, you've got vetiver, juniper berries, black currant, pink pepper, cedar, lily of the valley. There's a lot going on. I'm not even listing all of the notes, but again, this one is a very attention-grabbing, very mass-pleasing fragrance. And then in the dry down, or in the base, you've got ambroxan, leather, vanilla, benzoin, and labdanum. You've got some resins in there. You've got some vanilla, some leather. It's just a beautiful, beautiful fragrance, an awesome blue. And the fact you can get this for anywhere from $22 to $30, depending on where you pick it up, is just a total steal. All right, another one that I'll mention that some would say doesn't belong in a blue fragrance video, although I have seen many people include it in their list. If you look at the fragrance profile and you consider this as pretty much a year-round fragrance, I think it does belong here. This is RASASI HAWAS. This is similar to Invictus. It's similar to Invictus Aqua. It reminds me, excuse me, quite a bit. My computer closed off on me. It reminds me quite a bit of the original Invictus. And this one is a great performer. It's a good, probably 10-hour fragrance. It's aquatic, it's sweet, it's got some of that bubblegum or cotton candy sweetness, but it's also got a very pleasant dry down. It projects like a monster. This is just a great fragrance. So what you're going to get in this one is apple, bergamot, cinnamon in the opening. This isn't all the notes. In the mid, you've got watery notes, plum, orange blossom, ambroxan. In the dry down, you've got musk, driftwood, and patchouli. And this one smells about like you would expect if you're familiar with Invictus Aqua. And you can just hear in the fragrance profile some of the qualities of this, although I don't know how they get that bubblegum sweetness with these notes, but apparently they do. It's an awesome pickup. All right, the next two I'm going to mention, I'm going to tell you the fragrance and a clone. And these are two of my favorites, even though some people roll their eyes at them. This one is the original Sauvage EDT. I still love the original Sauvage. I think it's a great fragrance. You know, in my world, I don't smell a ton of people wearing Sauvage. I don't go clubbing and, you know, I'm 41 years old and, you know, I work a lot, hang out with friends, and I don't smell everybody wearing Sauvage. I don't think it's quite as pervasive as it was a couple years ago. I love Sauvage. You're going to get a sharp, metallic, peppery, ambroxan bomb. You're going to get some bergamot in the opening. You're going to get, I'll give you some of the actual notes. You're going to get lavender. You're going to get some patchouli and some cedar in the dry down. This is a very loud, very strong projecting, very long-lasting fragrance. This bottle's only about a year old. I waited a long time to buy Sauvage. I had a clone. And, you know, I liked it, but it's grown on me through the years, so I finally had to pick up a bottle. So a year-old bottle is still a nuclear performer. I love the original Sauvage. I probably wear it a couple times a month. A great clone, and there is a number of clones now, but this is probably the one I would still recommend because of the price point, the similarity, and the performance. This is ARMAF's The Pride of ARMAF. And it's actually got some of the qualities of the EDP of Sauvage and some of the qualities of the EDT. It doesn't have quite the, you know, blow your head off opening that Sauvage EDT does. The opening is a little more similar to the EDP, but through the rest of the fragrance, it's a pretty good blend of the two. It's a great clone. I think you can get it for around $30, and it's a fantastic pickup. This next one, this is still my absolute favorite blue fragrance. I cherish this bottle. You just can't get them cheap. I think I paid around 90 bucks for the 2 ounce. And I probably wear this one again a couple times a month. And this is, of course, YEDP. It's still my favorite in the lineup. I haven't tried EDP Intense, but I've tried the others. And I just love this one. I love the sweetness. I love the powerhouse projection, the long-lasting 12-hour performance. And what you're going to get in this one, in the top, you've got apple, ginger, bergamot. You've got that sweet apple mixing with that ginger is just magical. But my favorite part in the mid, you've got sage, juniper berries, geranium, a very aromatic heart. This is one of the most three-dimensional fragrances I own. What I mean by that is it almost feels like there is a physical, property around you that you can reach out and grab a hold of. The way that this fragrance surrounds you with an amazing scent cloud. YEDP, you absolutely can't beat it in my opinion. Then in the base, you've got amberwood, which is ambroxan, tonka bean, cedar, vetiver, and olibanum. I love this fragrance. There's a pretty good clone, although it's lacking somewhat in the aromatic heart and that three-dimensional quality. There's a little more sweetness, a little more floral quality. I've heard it compared to YEDP mixed with Y Live, and this is LATAFFA's FAKHAR Black. And this is a really good clone. What I do is I'll spray half my body with FAKHAR Black, half my body with YEDP. So I still get what I love from YEDP, and there's actually some things about this one that I really enjoy that are different. I like that extra sweetness. I like that little more of a floral quality. The way they blend together is phenomenal, and it's enabling me to really stretch out my $90 2-ounce bottle of YSLY. So pick this one up. I think you can also get it in the $25 to $30 range. LATAFFA FAKHAR Black. It's a great clone. So I think that was actually 13 that I went through. I'll probably put 12 in the title just because that's, easier to whatever, it makes sense. But let me know down in the comments, what are your top blue fragrances? What are some that you would call blue, even if others wouldn't? And please subscribe to my channel. I've really enjoyed interacting with you in the comments, and I'm still blown away that people actually watch these. I do it because I love it. It's a hobby. I am thinking about monetizing the channel so I can upgrade some of the equipment. People complain about the AirPods. I do that because the audio quality is good. People complain about various things, but I love doing this. And for those of you who enjoy watching it and who are kind and like to interact in the comments, I really appreciate you joining me on this journey. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks.